I opened my eyes to that morning when snow covered the world like a burial shroud. The blizzard was so fierce that I could hear the wind howling around my shelter and the sound of snow piles sliding off the roof. This storm, which had raged throughout the night, was now at its peak just before dawn. The sharp bite of the cold penetrated beneath my skin, as if I were frozen to the bone. However, the chill inside me wasn't from the weather, but from the strange silence around me. Something was off. I scanned the inside of my shelter. I rubbed my eyes and looked again. But no matter how carefully I looked, I couldn't see anyone. I wondered where the other members of my tribe could have gone. Why was no one here? Who would leave the shelter in such a violent storm? It felt like they had never existed, and a sense of emptiness settled inside me. For a moment, the reality that I was truly alone here carved itself into my mind. A strange unease began to grow within me. Even if I kept my eyes closed, it wouldn't change the truth. I had to go outside and take a look, but something was holding me back. It was as if a voice inside was whispering that this wasn't an ordinary morning. The air was not just cold, it felt unusually heavy, as if the sky might collapse on me at any moment. With hesitant steps, I opened the door to my shelter. Snow and wind rushed in instantly, hitting my face harshly. It was as if nature itself was trying to push me back. I squinted and stepped outside. The weather was unbelievably bad. The snow made it impossible to see, and the wind roared in my ears. At first, I couldn't see anything. The snowflakes were so dense that my visibility was almost zero. But the strange thing was, there were no tracks. My tribe's tracks had disappeared too. How could the tracks in front of the shelter vanish in such a fierce storm? My heart started to pound. The unease inside me had now turned into pure fear. I stopped for a moment and took a deep breath. There was no one around me. I took a few more steps, but this silence, this deep, strange silence, it only heightened my fear. Then from afar, I heard a sound. At first, I couldn't make out what it was. A deep, echoing bellow mixed with the howling of the storm. It was such a strange and unfamiliar sound that my heart pounded in my chest as I tried to figure out where it was coming from. I turned my gaze in the direction of the sound, but I couldn't see anything through the heavy snow. At that moment, a shiver ran through me. That sound was too alien to belong to nature. Yet it also felt familiar. I spotted a massive shadow emerging from the snow. At first I thought I was imagining it, but the shadow was slowly moving toward me. As the shape of the creature formed in my mind, I heard that deep bellow once again. Now I had no doubt. A gigantic mammoth emerged from the snow. My eyes widened in disbelief. It felt like a creature from an ancient legend or an old tale. It was one of those great beasts from the stories of the elders. But something was odd. Mammoths usually traveled in herds, but this creature was alone. Why would such a massive and powerful animal be wandering alone in this storm? The fear inside me was giving way to a deep curiosity. The mammoth approached me slowly, like a ghost. Its presence revealed the full majesty and terror of nature. But this mammoth wasn't just any creature. There was wisdom in its eyes, a secret. It felt as though it had existed for thousands of years, transcending time. As I locked eyes with it, I felt a deep resonance within me. This encounter wasn't a coincidence. This enormous creature carried a message. But what was that message? I had to decipher it. I carefully took a step toward the mammoth. The wind grew stronger with every step, as if the storm itself was trying to push me back. But I couldn't stop. The mammoth's eyes never left me. As it gazed at me with its deep, dark eyes, I felt a call inside me. This wasn't just a hunt or a chance meeting. It was a secret whispered by nature. But to uncover this secret, I had to follow the great creature. At that moment, I sensed movement behind me. I quickly turned, but I wasn't sure what I saw. A shadow had slipped through the snow. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the storm, but then I saw a pair of glowing eyes. They were shining in the darkness, but I couldn't figure out what they belonged to. A chill ran through me. It was as if those eyes were watching me from another world. At that moment, I realized I wasn't alone. The sound of the storm changed. The wind's howl took on a different tone, almost as if it were whispering. This was no ordinary storm. The sounds carried by the wind felt like echoes from forgotten times. As those eyes disappeared into the snow, the mammoth took another step toward me. It was calling me. I had to answer that call. I hesitated for a moment. The fear inside me was growing, but there was no turning back. The mammoth began to slowly move away into the storm. I couldn't just stand there watching. I had to act. With determined steps, I started to run after it. My tribe was still nowhere to be seen, as if they had never existed. Finding them could wait. I had to follow this mammoth. As the storm tried to swallow me, the feeling inside me grew stronger with every step. This was not just about tracking an animal. It was a journey into the unknown. As I ran through the storm, the mammoth began to disappear. In the white expanse, it was almost melting away. But I had no choice but to follow it. I didn't know where it was going, where it was leading me, but the deep call I felt inside, like a guide, was showing me the way. The snow crunched beneath my feet, and the wind hit me harder with each step. I had to hurry not to lose the mammoth. The enormous shadow was vanishing into the blizzard like a dream. But there was something. This journey was leading me to a much deeper secret. Just when I thought I had completely lost it, the mammoth's tracks suddenly ended in the snow. I stopped and looked around, but there were no more tracks or signs. It was as if it had evaporated. I was out of breath, my body trembling from the cold. But more unnerving was the mammoth's sudden disappearance. Where had it gone? It was just here. How could the tracks vanish so suddenly? It was as if the ground had opened up and swallowed it. As I scanned the surroundings with my eyes, the strange whispers in the storm began to sound again. The wind spoke in a different language, with voices from ancient times. In front of me appeared a structure I hadn't seen before. It was a large stone door. It was carved with ancient symbols whose meanings I didn't know. My heart was racing. At that moment, I felt as if this door had always been here, but I had never noticed it until now. I hesitated for a moment. I didn't know what lay beyond that door, but I couldn't turn back. The force that had brought me here, the secret whispered to me by nature, was right in front of me. I took a deep breath, pulling the cold air into my lungs, and reached for the door handle with trembling hands. As soon as I grasped it, snow fell over me, and the wind suddenly stopped. I slowly pushed the door and stepped inside. Inside, there was a profound silence, the complete opposite of the storm outside. As my footsteps echoed, a vast, dark tunnel stretched out before me. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I saw a beam of light in the distance. That light reminded me of something. At that moment, I realized a truth. This was not the end of the mammoth, but the beginning of me. The secret beyond the door was a path leading to something far greater than this world.